Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have a new review for you on the Löwe, the German Tier 7 premium tank, asked for by some of the subscribers recently. So we'll have a look at the tech spec as always, and as always we will use blitzhanger.com for that. If you're not using that, you should. It's a fantastic resource for all blitzers. The Löwe is always for sale in the store. It's 7,500 gold, which is approximately €20 depending on how much they're charging for gold or what special offers they have. As a premium tank, it has a great credit coefficient. It's 185%, which is second spot in tier 8, just behind the super Pershing. So it's really good. So it's earning almost twice the credits of standard tank. The only thing is though, when you buy it, you get no equipment with it, right? And this really fucking annoys me. If you're paying money to Wargaming for a premium tank, they should give you all the fucking equipment with it. I mean, what is the point of buying this tank and then you have to go and spend a huge amount of credits to get the equipment for it? I mean, you know, I'm sorry, but a premium tank should always have the equipment with it. I mean, this is just sort of double charging by Wargaming. I think it's very unfair. So, of course, that's the case for all the tanks that you buy in the store, the premium store. But I think it's very unfair, and if I were Wargaming, I would change that to enhance customer satisfaction. Now, in terms of setting up the tank, I would run chocolate bar and improved fuel, max out the performance. The tank has a 105mm gun, has good DPM, it does 310 damage points with AP, 260 plus with APCR, and 420 with HE. In terms of Penn, if you run gun rammer, you get 234mm of Penn with AP, 246 if you use calibrated shells. You get 294mm of Penn with APCR. That goes up to 309mm if you use calibrated shells. You get 60mm of Penn with HE, 66mm if you use calibrated shells. I use gun rammer on this because the Penn is pretty good. It has a big gun anyway. But I know some of you prefer to use calibrated shells. Both work, it's just your personal preference. I like to be able to fire more often possible because you're more active in the game, but that's just my own personal preference. Both options work. You get 1495 meters per second muzzle velocity with supercharge. I would recommend you use supercharge, and that goes up to 1869 meters per second with APCR, so APCR is a much faster round. Reload is 8.5 seconds if you use gun rammer, 9.2 seconds if you use calibrated shells. So as I said, both options work, but I prefer to have the 8.5 second reload. Dispersion with refined gun is fantastic. It's only 0.272, really low, and that gives it a G index, a gun handling index of 20,000, which is just amazing, right? That's better than a grill. You know, it's slightly better than a grill, so it just shows you how good the gun handling is in this tank. You also get 8 degrees of gun depression, which is good for a German heavy tank. 17 elevation too, so you get great gun alignment with this tank. Surprising for a German heavy. It has really good gun alignment. Now, this tank was never made, but it was to weigh 92.5 tons, right? So just think about that. It's as heavy as fuck, right? So this thing weighs a lot. You know, if this tank was a person, it'd be a salad dodger. When you think about it, an E100 weighs 100 tons, right? Hence the name. E50 weighs 50 tons, again, hence the name. So this thing is really heavy, and that affects it because its top speed is only 35 kilometers per hour, but it takes ages to get there because it's a really poor power to weight ratio. It sucks. But if you think about it, if you're trying to push fucking over 90 tons of tank, you need a big fucking engine, and that's why this thing is so slow. Traverse is great though, right? And that's a bit of a paradox because it's very slow in terms of its power to weight ratio, but its traverse is great, which makes it a very effective brawler and surprises a lot of people. If you've tried to circle of death this tank in a light or medium tank, you've probably been really surprised by how well it actually traverses, right? So it is an effective brawler. The armor is great in this tank. If we just look at it here, the relative armor numbers you saw there allow you to side scrape. It has good frontal armor. It has a very tough turret. Obviously here you can see it is vulnerable at the back. It has not such great armor at the sides, but the relative armor numbers when you angle up on this tank are great. It has that big gun mantlet too, which can't be penned. So it makes this tank very effective in terms of its armor profile. And you will get a lot of bounces in this. You will get steel wall medals in this tank. coming front onto you, particularly if you're up against your own tier. This tank is formidable opponent. It is, like its name suggests, the lion, which is what Löwe means in German. It is very effective. You can see here, looking at the armor profile, even when up tiered, it's decent. When you're at your if you're top tier, you can be a real bully. Like the name suggests, the Löwe, the lion, it is the king of the jungle if it is top tier, and can be very effective. You can be a top tier bully in this tank. It is effective frontline tank, especially if it's top tier. It holds its own even if it's up tiered with our armor profile. The gun handling is great. It is good for long range sniping because we know that the gun index is as good as a grill, so really good for sniping. It's decent at front line, it's good in brawling, so this is an effective versatile tank. Its only real limitation is its speed, its power to weight ratio, so therefore its mobility, its agility is lacking. It takes fucking ages to get anywhere. So you know, it really is it's very clunky, and you're going to see that when we have a look at the gameplay here on May and Runes, a supremacy match. Now, normally in this map with a heavy tank you would go towards A, but as I checking out the setup here, I decide to go towards C. I think that my lights and mediums are going to need some help. So I tell them I'm going to go and help them. Communication is always the key part of any game, as we've discussed before on channel. You know, it is a team game. We are of course individual players, but it is a team game. You can't win it without some help from your team. And you know, therefore communicating with your team, particularly at the start, is important. Tell them what you're going to do. You can see here just what I mean about the really poor power to weight ratio, right? This tank takes fucking ages to get anywhere. It's glacial slow. I mean, climate change is faster than this thing. That really is its major drawback. Apart from that, this is a super tank. But of course, if it really did have a good power to weight ratio, as agile, then it would probably be almost OP. So I guess it does need to have some limitations. Have a look here at the gun handling in action, and we see in this replay here, you see the armor in action as well. Nice bounce coming up exactly off the armor profile that we looked at in the tech spec, and then you can see the gun handling in action here. I'm going to slow this down and have a look at this. Again, you see beautiful gun handling, and really see that 20k gun score in action there. The gun in this tank won't let you down. Whether you're firing AP, APC, or even HE, it's very effective. And with that 8.5 second reload, it's really good. Now, that was me. I fluffed that shot. I rushed it, so that's more player error than gun handling error. I was a bit too anxious to get that snap off that shot and missed it there. You can see it disappearing into the background. You know, when you have multiple targets like this in a game with this Löwe, it is in its element, right? It is just in its element. If it's front on to the enemy and has multiple targets, it's going to bounce shots like you see here. Beautiful bounce right off the angle aspects on the front of the tank. You can have confidence in this tank front on, especially if you're top tier. Again, nice snapshot, and this tank again and again delivers. And now we're going to see a cat fight. It's the lion against the panther. There's only going to be one winner, and you can see here just how effective it is. And here the lion strikes. The lion hunts, you know, track the panther, pushing onto him. He's not going to be able to pen me front on, get a nice bounce. And the great thing about this tank with that armor profile that we looked at is that it is a ram damage machine. Just look at that, boom. And of course the great thing about ramming is it is the round that never ends. It's the round that never needs to be reloaded. It's always there. There's going to see another ram kill later on in this, and that's something to bear in mind when you're playing this tank, guys, that it is very effective at ram damage. Now the problem you have is getting up to a sufficient amount of speed in order to make the ram really effective. And when we look later on, you're going to see the second ram kill I do is in exactly the same position as the kill on the panther. And if you're wondering why, it's because they're both downhill. So going downhill in this tank allows you to get up that momentum. And you can imagine, we discussed the weight of this tank. You're hitting something, you know, at 35 kilometers plus an hour, bringing 93 tons of weight down, with that armor profile as well. So it really is a battering ram of a tank, and really, really very effective at that. So just something to bear in mind to add to your gameplay, particularly if you're somebody who doesn't normally ram. Just bear in mind, if you get the opportunity to ram in this tank, if you get a tank in front of you when you're at full tilt, you can do a ton of damage to this thing. Again, here we see lovely bounce and then nice gun handling. And then we can see now again there's going to be a nice piece of gun handling here. The LTTB is coming. He's gone. I was going to chase him, but then I saw he tracked himself when he bounced down, and that allows me to take him out. Again, nice gun handling. You also saw the traverse on the tank, surprisingly good for such a heavy tank. Now it's just the Jagdpanther me. This game is won, so I'm just going to push on some to clear him off. You know, I don't care if I take some damage here. I'm more than happy to trade hit points with him, but I know when I'm going front on, I'm also going to get one or two bounces, and they start coming up. Now as I'm coming onto him, by the way, I'm starting to put him into a panic, right? And now we see exactly what I talked about again, the ram kill, and the lion's teeth in action, right? Coming straight at you. You've got that good gun handling, and you've got 93 tons of fucking German heavy engineering plowing down on you. Not a pleasant sight. Bam. And as I said, no coincidence that both the ram kills were in the same place, and that delivered a net 5k damage game. And I think any tank that you can deliver 5k of net damage in, that's damage dealt and damage bounced as the net damage, I think is great. Even if you were doing that at tier 10, you would be happy, right? And I don't think any of your teammates could complain with that level of contribution to your team. But at tier 8, it's just really effective, and that's what this tank can do. You know, I think that game was a great demonstration of this tank's strengths. Its gun handling, its armor profile, its ramming ability, and you see there the steel wall metal. You know, we mentioned this when we're looking at the armor profile. You will get steel wall metals in this tank a lot. It's really effective. You will get steel wall and Spartan medals, and the good thing about it is, of course, if you know how to side scrape, if you know how to angle, you're going to get more bounces. But even if you're not so effective with that, you're going to get them anyway, because the armor profile is just so good. And if you're constantly moving around, it presents difficult to armor aspects to the enemy, and you'll get bounces you don't even play for. Let's have a recap. This is a good heavy tank. It's a good premium tank. The 185% credit coefficient is great. Frontal armor is basically troll, as you saw there. Steel wall metal on tracks. This thing is. It is slow moving though. That's mainly its main disadvantage is it's slow moving, but it does have that good traverse, which compensates when brawling. The 105mm gun is really good. I use gun rammer calibrated shells. I use gun rammer, but calibrated shells also work. It depends on your preference. You have 1495 meters per second muzzle velocity. With supercharge, I recommend you use supercharge to max out the gun handling. 8 degrees gun depression, which means it has really good gun alignment. And you saw that in action there when we're on the hilly terrain. The G index of almost 20,000 is super, and that's more or less the same as a grill, so that just shows you how good the gun handling is in this tank. As we discussed, it is a top tier bully. The line hunts and the line has teeth. It even holds its own when it is up tiered. It is quintessential heavy, right? So it's slow moving, but it is a slow moving wall of death coming towards you. And at €20 it's great value. The only problem I have with it is that it doesn't come with equipment, and that really fucking annoys me. I think a premium tank should always be premium and do what they fucking say in the tin and come with the equipment unlocked, not you pay money and then have to pay more of your virtual money to unlock the equipment. So that kind of is the only drawback in terms of the value for money, but otherwise at €20, given the credits that it's going to earn for you, it is definitely a good purchase. So that concludes the review. I hope you found it useful. I hope you found it enjoyable. Thanks for watching, and if you have any feedback, please let me know. And I guess all remains for me to say is pants off.